In this video, I'm gonna share with you the top 5 most common sales interview mistakes people are making. And you wanna make sure you watch this video until the end because sales is a game of slight advantage. So you only have to be a little bit better than the next candidate in order to get your dream job. So by learning what these mistakes are, my hope is that you correct them and perform well in your interviews so that you can get the job that you deserve. What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick Dang here from Sales Legacy, the ultimate online sales masterclass that's gonna show you everything you need to know to start and accelerate your sales career. Now, before we get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you wanna see more videos like this, and let's dive in. Now, some of the tips I'm gonna share with you are gonna be from my experience as a salesperson when I was interviewing a lot in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, working in tech sales, and also because I started hiring more people for my company, I've been interviewing a lot of different people, so I'm gonna give you both my experiences as a salesperson, looking for sales jobs in the past, and also as a business owner hiring other people so that you can get 2 different perspectives. Now, the first mistake that people make all the time is failing to be punctual. And I was actually quite surprised when I was, just interviewing all these people. I found that even when I scheduled the interview with them, we scheduled it on Zoom, I sent them a calendar invite, I sent them reminders before the interview, right? 2 reminders before an interview. There would always be people who are just late. Maybe they're gonna be 5 minutes late. Some people are 10 minutes late, and it's a little ridiculous, right? So what this says to an employer is that you don't really care about the job. So if you're applying for a job and you just submit your resume to everybody and then you come late to an interview, why should anybody take you that seriously when there are other candidates who are showing up early to their interviews, right? So definitely you want to be punctual because people will judge you based on, how early you come or how punctual you are, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're sloppy and you're not coming to the interview on time at the bare minimum, how are you actually gonna be on the job? Probably not that great. And so just from that, you're already looked in a negative perception. And when you start actually doing the interview, well, people aren't gonna take you that seriously because they're gonna think this guy or girl doesn't really care. They're just here and they don't really care about the job, so why should I hire them, right? So be punctual, please. And please, whether it's in person, if it's in person, show up to the office early. Park wherever you figure out parking early. Go into the office early and sit down and wait in the lobby until they call you in, right? And if you are doing an interview over Zoom or online, whatever the meeting room is, show up early, right? It's okay. You can show up 5 minutes early, make sure all the technical things are done where your sound is working, your audio is working, your video is working, and then do your interview knowing confidently that you're not gonna have any technical issues. Now, the next mistake people make all the time is not preparing ahead of time for the interview. Now, I remember there's one specific person who I interviewed when they came in. They didn't even know what I did. They were like, oh, so what are you doing on YouTube? What kind of content are you creating? They're applying for a job to work with me and they don't even know what kind of content I make on YouTube and things like that, right? So obviously, how can you really take a person seriously if they just don't Google you? So when you are a salesperson and you're looking for a sales job, it's the same thing. You have to know what the company you're interviewing at actually sells. Go on their website, see what products they sell, what price points are they selling it at, who are their customers, what pain do they solve? These are very basic questions that you should be able to figure out within, let's say, a couple minutes of looking at a company's website. So if you're not willing to spend, let's say, 5 minutes going on a company's website to see what they do before your interview, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? You're not taking it seriously. It shows in your interview when the questions you ask and how you answer their questions. If you don't know anything about the company, they're gonna smell it right away, and they can kind of smell when you're BSing it, and they're not going to hire you because you're showing that you don't really care. So whatever interview you're going into, if you really care about this job, make sure you know the basics about this company, and that all that is just what pains do they solve? How do they solve it? Who are their customers? And any related news about this company, like if they raised funding recently or if they're hiring a bunch of people, right? You can Google this stuff and you get all the information on Google for free. So prepare for your interview, show that you care, show that you've done your research, and come prepared, especially if your job is sales, let's say it's sales prospecting and it's to generate leads. then what I would do is I would go on their website and try to think about, okay, who do I think they want to work with? And when I go into the interview, I would say, hey, these are some ideas I want to try. I want to reach out to these people because I think they would be a great fit to buy your products and services. And that's really coming prepared with a plan. And it's not that difficult to do. It really just takes 5-10 minutes before your interview. And it really goes a long way because it shows you're different from everybody else who just goes in there, just answering questions instead of actually proactively trying to help. Now, the next mistake people make all the time is they wear the wrong clothes, right? And this might be more common now because, we're doing meetings from home and on Zoom and things like that, and you're not really sure what you should be wearing. Should you be more casual? Should you wear a suit? Should you be business casual, right? Or are you overdressing, underdressing? So there's a lot of, ways you can mix it up, especially if, let's say, fashion and, these kind of things aren't your forte. So for example, if you're trying to interview at a startup and you wore like a full-on suit, that might be a little weird because everyone's wearing t-shirts. Or if you're wearing a t-shirt and you're interviewing at a large corporation and everyone's wearing full-on suit, now that's the opposite, right? And that doesn't work either. So how do you know what you should wear and how do you do it confidently where you don't have to worry about, oh, are they gonna like my outfit, right? Because you don't wanna be thinking about the outfit when you're actually doing the interview. You just wanna focus on the interview. So here's a tip for you guys. What you wanna do is you want to think about, okay, at this company I'm going to interview at, how do people dress on a regular everyday basis? Okay, so that's like the baseline. From there, what you do is you say, okay, now that I know how they dress, how do I take it just one level above that, right? So if on a scale of 1 to 10 from informal to very formal, let's say a company, they dress at a 7. It's kind of formal, but not really, not too formal. If they're dressed at a 7 out of 10, you wanna go 8 out of 10. So same as them, right? So there's that familiarity, but just one little tick above that so that you're showing that you're trying, you're putting the effort, and you actually just look good, right? While still fitting in with the culture of the company. So here's an example. When I interviewed at Oracle, my guess was that when people are going to the office, they're either wearing a blazer or maybe they're just wearing a t-shirt, a button-up t-shirt and slack pants and dress shoes, right? So I was like, okay, then obviously if that's what they dress every day, I'm gonna wear a full-on suit. So that's the suit jacket, that's the button-up with the tie clip, the slacks, the leather shoes, the whole shebang, right? And so that was the perfect fit for what they were looking for, right? You wanna dress corporate, but then you wanna have the full-on suit. Now, when I worked at a startup or when I was interviewing for startups, I felt like the full-on suit wasn't really necessary because people aren't really wearing suits at startups. They're actually just wearing t-shirt and jeans and a jacket, and that's pretty much it, like a Patagonia jacket, right? Which is a very startup look. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do the full-on suit like I did for Oracle. Let me switch it up a bit. So I wore a t-shirt, a jacket, like more of a sports style, suit jacket, jeans, and leather shoes. And that was a great fit. That was like a business casual kind of look, which was, just one tick above what they were wearing at the startup. Actually, maybe a couple of ticks above, but it wasn't too formal and it was cool and it kind of fit in. So that's my advice to you guys. Just one tick above whatever the culture is at the company and you're gonna be looking great. Now, the next mistake people make is selling themselves too hard. Now, in sales, you are selling in a sales interview, naturally you are selling yourself. But I found that when I started interviewing people, some people were selling themselves a little too hard and it raised a lot of red flags, right? When somebody says, when they overpromise like what they can do and they don't have any support or experience to back up what they're saying or results in the past, then it's a little strange because it requires me to trust what they're saying without having any proof. And I found that really strange actually. And so, anybody who does that, I don't want to hire them because I feel like they are not really being totally honest with me. I think there's a balance when it comes to, selling yourself interview where you want to show the other person that you care about this company, you want to build your career here and you want to add value to the company, and you have to show that, not passively, but assertively, and show like, hey, I really want to help you out. But you don't want to take it too far where you're going to say I'm gonna do this and that, it's gonna be crazy. And it's like, when you're selling yourself too much, people are really skeptical of it, especially if you don't have this past experience to support it. If you do have the past experience to support what you're saying, great, by all means go ahead because that's a normal thing to do. But if you don't, then sell yourself, but not too aggressively so you don't raise any red flags. And now the final mistake people make all the time is lying. This is actually very common, I found, when it comes to interviews, and especially sales interviews, right? A lot of people, well, when it comes to sales, right? People are very good at twisting the words or telling stories in a certain way that makes it sound really good, but is it really good? I don't know, but the way they said it sounds really nice. So you definitely don't want to lie about who you are and your accomplishments and your resume, because I think at the end of everything, when maybe you don't perform as well, or if people find out the truth, it's really going to bite you back. So my advice about this is don't straight up lie about, things. If you didn't do something, don't lie about it, right? But there are ways to tell stories that really emphasize your strengths. And also there are ways to, emphasize your weaknesses and show that how you're willing to put in the work to overcome those weaknesses as well. Because that's very honest, right? And you can turn a weakness into a strength depending on your perception of how you tackle that weakness. So my advice there is don't really lie, but show your strengths and weaknesses in a certain light so that it amplifies your story and makes you a stronger candidate, right? Because you can only get so far with lying, but when you're very honest about who you are as a person and you're willing to be coachable and you're willing to learn and progress as a human being, well, that's suddenly much more attractive than the other person who just lies about whatever they're doing in sales. And also I feel like if you lie about certain things or a certain industry or things you've done, a lot of times people can tell, right? Because the person interviewing you is probably experienced in sales. So if you're lying about sales experience, they could probably sniff it out fairly quickly. There's always a way to tell a story to make it sound nice for your experience, right? So find a way to do it, practice, rehearse, and you'll be good to go. And so with that said, those are gonna be the 5 common mistakes I find people make during their sales interview. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you are ready to take your sales game to the next level, make sure to check out my masterclass, Sales Legacy, which is the ultimate online sales masterclass that's gonna show you everything you need to know when it comes to starting your sales career, getting a sales job, and crushing it in your sales job. So if you wanna check that out, make sure to check Sales Legacy. Link is in the description, and I'll see you on the other side. With that said, my name is Patrick Dang. I'll see you on the next one.